What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Swelling Repulsion, Fatally Misguided. This also came out on June 7th, this time on Transcending Obscurity, and this is their second album overall, and this is well, it's described on Metal Archives as progressive melodic death metal from Colorado, but I'll be honest, this is more of, I would say, a tech death album than anything else. Like, not really proggy or all that. Like, there's touches of melody, but aside from that, I think this is mostly just a tech death album. But, yeah, it's actually a pretty short album for a tech death album. Like, it's just under 30 minutes, and the longest track's like 7.5, and that's the closing track, where the most of this album runs over 3 minutes a song. Starting off with Vanquished, starts off with some proggy clean guitars and a raw doomy riff, and then it just blasts. It's got groove to it, dissonance, and even a bass melody. And then in Basking in Fumes of Failure, this is where it starts to get a little faster, like thrashy moments, more technical riffs coming along, triplet chugs. And triplet chugs show up quite a bit on this album. Like I would say on this track, Cesspool of Dismembered Memory, Failure, and the closer, Sullen Light of Expired Stars. Lots of triplet chugs going on. And I mean a lot of triplet chugs. And while I like them, I'll touch more on it whenever I get towards the end of the review. But then the title track, this is where a little bit of the melodic death metal aspect comes in with the opening riffs, kind of having like a hybrid of tech death and mellow death. But there's a groove on top, and then it just kind of turns into just complete and utter chaos. Sacred Doom, I like how it does start with like a groove and a dissonant melody, and then it gets into more straight up tech death. But there's also some bass work going on here. But there was a spoken word section that I thought was just kind of weird, and I don't think really fit the song for me personally. Cesspool of Dismembered Memory. This one goes for more like chug and dissonance and just flat out weird. Like, it's just odd. There's some odd sounds going on this track. But Drug-Induced Anti-Logic, this one kind of goes for more tremolos and blasts as opposed to technical riffs. And then it does get groovy and melodic as the song progresses. Failure, again, more straight up tech death work with thrashy rhythms and tech death riffage, triplet chugs. But then there's some angular riffs that show up, which I'll give them that. They definitely threw in another color to their palette with the angular riffs. But then the closing track, Sullen Light of Expired Stars, chugs, triplet chugs, more angular riffs, and more technical play going on here, as well as some dark melodies. So when I'm saying tech death, it's not wankery tech death like a good chunk of modern tech death nowadays. This is just more complex in its riff structure. But yeah, so I went through all the songs pretty quick, and that's because, well, a good chunk of these songs, aside from the closer, just run in together, and they just kind of follow a similar formula, and that's like, okay, let's just play like technical riffs with thrashy rhythms and blasts, but maybe throw in a couple other elements here and there, whether it be groove, melody, or dissonance. But the big problem I have with this album, apart from a lot of songs sounding very samey, the production. I get they wanted to go for an old school raw production, but when it comes to tech death, you do want a more tighter productions, that way you can be able to hear everything. And I'll be honest, I thought the guitar and the bass tones were obnoxious on this album. Like, I wrote in my notes for the opening track, Vanquished, the guitars and the bass, the tones at times sounded like I was hearing a severe storm alarm, like on the TV whenever you're watching TV and you get those like severe weather alerts where it goes it's like when it gets to some parts on the guitars, it sounds like a from like a severe storm alert, and I'm just like, I was having to look around like, it can't be storming out. It's been a nice day all day. No, it was the guitars and the bass, and yeah, that really took me out of this album quite a bit. And of course, like I said, a lot of the songs just kind of sound the same to me, except for that last track, which I will say was actually a good song, simply put, because they were able to implement other aspects instead of doing the same things they were doing on the other tracks, like triplet chugs, groovy chugs, angular riffing, technical wizardry. Well, not technical wizardry, but more technical guitars and dark melodies. Whereas the rest of the songs, like I said, just kind of follow a similar formula. Maybe they throw in one different element on each song to kind of be like, hey, we're going to fool you. Unfortunately, not the case here, at least to me. So, yeah, kind of somewhat of a chore to get through at times. And also, you would have thought with it being a tech death album, they would have experimented more. Didn't really quite get that. It kind of sounded rehashed on a lot of these songs. So overall, I can only give this 2 out of 5. It's not a terrible album. It's just there. I mean, again, the production is really the biggest problem I have with this album. And again, some of the songs kind of sound very similar to one another. They don't really stand out a lot to me except for the closing track. But it's the production on here. I hate this production. Especially the guitars and the bass. They just sound absolutely obnoxious. So yeah, I hate to give kind of a negative review, but I was kind of hoping this would be over. If the guitars and the bass would have had a better tone to it, I probably would have given it a 3 out of 5. But because of just how rough the tones are, I have to knock it to a 2. But of course, that's just my opinion. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.
Thank you for your patronage.